So welcome to, actually we're calling this Harvey 2 session now. It was the special topics, but now it's just a continuation of the morning Harvey session. Basically we've got two talks here. This is something different. This session, or if you saw the art installation, this talk is sort of, first half is the geology and the second half is kind of the art of it. And so with that, you can do the introduction.
Hi, I'm here to introduce Jerome Kendall, and the talk is called Flow Archives of Harvey, Flood, Adjust, and Recover, Part 1.
Cool. So this is a collaborative effort of artists and geologists. Kate Kendall is one of the artists. Ariana Roche is another artist. Andrew Stearns is a student at U of H. Ramon is also a student at U of H. Sarah Myers, an undergrad, just about to graduate, applying to graduate schools. I'm Jerome Kendall, and Jan Phillips is another artist geotourist. So as I said, this is about the Hurricane Harvey, the archives, several different archives. Basically, there's a hydraulic archive, which is the water level. There's a sedimentary archive that was the sand peels, and I'll address those. And Kate's going to talk about the human impact archive, which is based off of the 211 United Way Center, which is a lot of statistics on the human impact. And she'll also discuss archives as art. This is an interesting, something different here to have really kind of an art science exhibit, she'll discuss kind of the differences and similarities between art and science. So these are just, it was a collaboration of a lot of people from artists, geologists, interested parties, photographers, key people. The Buffalo Bayou Park Partnership supported us with access and physical support. The peels were worked on in their warehouse. United Way was involved in seeing the parallels between the different archives. And we want to thank the GeoGulf Committee for doing something different. They were excited when they saw these because it's not the standard thing we do, but it's also, I think, important as geologists in this city that is prone to effects of long-term geologic processes that we understand to start making these, the general public understands more. A lot of this is speaking to the already converted. We understand that the ideas of time and we're in a coastal plain and the sea level is coming, but it behooves us to get that out to the greater community, and that's part of what this effort is. And GeoGulf supported us. There were a number of talks, posters. You saw the installation and the development of the website that's going to live on and potentially be a hurricane trail going through Buffalo Bayou Park. So we have these three different archives, and there's parallels between them. There's a flooding phase, which was the high water. There's a period of several months, basically 100 days of adjustment, where each of these archives adjusted in different waves. And after 100 days, there's sort of a recovery phase where there's similar but different responses in the different archives, and that's what we'll look at. So the setting, everybody's familiar where we're here in Houston. We had talks this morning about the Buffalo Bayou drainage, a relatively small drainage, but very important to us in Houston. And so this is the Buffalo Bayou Park segment of Buffalo Bayou. The red is really the maximum extent of the flooding during Harvey. Over here is Shepherd, here's downtown, there's I-45. So this is the park, which is really the beginning of deposition from Harvey. Most of the above was erosional. The red is the max flood, the blue is the present day channel. The yellow is the natural channel from 1944 off the Google Earth, modified in the 70s. And then the green are the large sand deposits over 1 meter to up to 3 meters thick that were laid down by Harvey. And that's where we took the sand peels, sculptures, most of them coming from the dog park area, which is a blow up here. So first we're going to look at the archive from the Shepherd is where the USGS monitor station is. The other archive is from the United Way 211 call center, which is right there, and here's the dog park. So within 1 kilometer of each other, we have these 3 places responding to the flood event in different ways. So here's the Shepherd Bridge. The gauging station is right here. At Harvey, it came up over the railing, 42 feet. It's a big event, not the biggest event. You know, not even close. Here's the 1929 event, 43.5 feet. In 1879, there was an event at Allen Parkway, which was higher than these other two. We're estimating here it was around 45 feet. And in 1935 was 49 feet. So part of the punchline is, this is normal. This is where we live. And this is what we need to live with. So, and the archive here, this is the stream gauge. So here's the storm, the peak of the storm, 42 feet. The second little bump there, that's the release from the dams. And then it drops shortly, and then over, this is 100 days across, over 20 days, it fell pretty rapidly down to about 10 feet, where it stabilized for a while. At 30 days, dropped down again. And then it was down here at a few feet with other little storms. So, and these are our phases. Pre-Harvey, the flood, very short. The adjustment phase, where it was dropping back down, and then here we're in recovery. That's a record that's out there on the internet. You can download it. So that's the hydrologic record. Big event, extended over 100 days. The sedimentary record is what we are looking at, and Andrew is looking at the LIDAR, comparing before and after LIDAR to get a quantitative number within a few percent of how much rock was or sediment was eroded at this Harvey event. And he's looking upstream and downstream, and you can see his abstract, but the point here is as you come down, here's the gradient. Where it starts to flatten out, that's where we are here in Buffalo Bayou, and that's where the first big sands were dropping out, really starting about a mile before the Shepherd Bridge. But that was the first big bars deposited. Upstream was mostly erosive. We actually, he canoed, kayaked the whole thing, and upstream, it's just all eroded out and exposed roots for the main part. Because it's where we had the velocity, and it's basically contributing sediment down. But when you get down to Buffalo Bayou Park again, this is where we're getting the really big sand bodies deposited. And most of those are associated with areas where the stream was straightened. At Buffalo Bayou Park, at the dog park, the yellow is this big meander. It was straightened in the 70s. Same thing at the Police Memorial. There was a big meander that went up into the cemetery, and they cut that off. Big sand deposit there, and then some benches down here also where they've modified the stream. So I think, and to some extent, the straightening worked. There is no real second bump. Upstream, when they let out from the dam, was actually higher than the Harvey event. When it hit, by the time we got to Shepherd Bridge, it was able to get out faster. So we didn't really have a second bump in terms of a higher event. So to that extent, you know, there was some good from the straightening. But we're going to look at the deposits. This was Sarah's effort. She did the interpretation. She brought in other people to work with her. She learned a lot. Dr. Dupree was one of her advisors. And she interpreted the peels. We made a dozen peels, if you saw them. And she identified different sedimentary structures that basically were relating to the energy. And the group over here we'll look at were really the high energy deposits, big planar beds. Then it went down, you went above those and it started to slow down, and we were getting cross stratification. And then as it dropped down, we got this cross channel formed that cut through the sandbar and actually eroded through and made a canyon. We have these big flows from out of the dog park. And then at the top, there's even some recovery deposits. We see bulldozer deposits. So we'll look at a few of these in detail here. So here's the dog park area. So the dog park, here's the old channel, the natural channel. At the dog park, it actually flowed more north-south naturally. That's why the dog park pond is there, because it's the natural meander. And then Harvey, the red lines are showing the major flood coming through here, and it built the big green sandbar, 12 feet or more thick. And then the lake formed, and it actually drained out and cut through the bar. And then the bulldozers were moving it this way. So if we look at it, here's the bar, you see through there, and this is the channel cut. And the yellow is where the peels are from. So this is about 45 days after Harvey, before they removed it all. And so we'll look at so the sand peels we're going to look at are A over here, which has got mainly the early adjustment to the late adjustment. Peel 3 over here, which has really got the channel cut. And then we'll look at peel 2, which has got elements of all the phases. So here's peel 2. It's got the main erosive phase, and basically there's no record. Everything went through. It's an erosional surface and a big gap. This is pre-Harvey, and there's a rough erosional surface. After that, we've got these long planar beds in the early adjustment phase. And then later we get the cross stratification as we get into the middle adjustment phase where things are slowing down. So a detailed look. Here's the erosive phase with the planar beds just bed, upper flow regime stuff. And then as you go up, we cross into these beds where you can see some more low angle cross stratification. And on this one's actually there's some little faults, which is from the late adjustment phase when there was the channel cut and it's actually collapsing into the channel. So this carries evidence of parts of all the adjustment phase. This peel also has the basal, and then it had probably 12 feet of the adjustment phase. The channel cut came through and eroded down, almost took it all out, and this is all flowing this way, draining the dog park. And you see we're getting these big leaves in there. That's the erosion surface, the primary flood one, and this is the channel cut, 34 days later. And then we put in these deposits, and then in this one, actually up near high, there's another mud layer. One of those little storms came in and flooded the channel cut and left a little mud layer. So that's actually, for geologists, that's December 3rd, about 85 days after Harvey. And then they continued to drain the dog park. It's not normal for geologists to put your finger on something and tell you what day it is. And then the last one, peel 2, has the similar things with the erosional surface from the flood, the cut down for the channel. Here we've got some little collapse features, but up here is all massive. And that's the bulldozer deposits. So actually this one, the bulldozers came in. We took this one in December as they were starting to the recovery phase and moving them out. If you saw Kate's video, you can see the bulldozers taking it out. 600 million tons of sand removed. So here's the sequence. There's the bar. Originally, there's a big meander. Then the storm came through and dumped during the early and late adjustment phase. The big bar was deposited. And the pond was isolated as it dropped back down to the channel, cut across and made our flow, our Harvey Canyon. And then the bulldozers came with the last phase. So we actually here, there's our peels, but we've got actually 4 directions of sediment transport captured in these peels. And roughly 100 days of flood adjustment and recovery from Harvey. So that's what happened there at the dog park. And this is the archive left of Harvey because they took it all out. The field trip tomorrow was going to go take another peel, but all the Harvey deposits, they took the last one out a week or 2 ago. So. But there's an Imelda deposit, so we're okay. So it's a little faint here, but there's the hydrologic record. Faintly here you can see the red box is the flood phase, basically a gap. The early adjustment, those big planar beds. The later adjustment is the energy drop. And then here is the latest adjustment when the dog park channel came through, and the box out here is the recovery phase. It was really a bulldozer deposit. Downstream of us, Carolina Ramon is working on sort of the sink end of the system. She's out in Galveston Bay and San Luis Pass looking at what's happening down there on that end of the system. And you can see her abstract. She's actually got a bunch of cores, and this is from this morning where the outflow actually overcame the tidal influences. That's the plume coming out. She's actually seen a decrease in sediment grain size down here at the inlet, which is an interesting thing. And you can go to our abstract for an explanation. So that's the other archive. The other point I need to make here is about time. And this is one of the big differences, I think, between the geologists and most communities, especially the artists we've been working with, these groups, is we always deal here in hundreds and thousands and millions and billions of years, and we can talk in that, and most people talk in minutes, hours, months. And these peels actually put them both together, because we've got the layers you can put on, but the right exposed here is the Beaumont Formation, Pleistocene. It's what's at the bottom of the peels, and you can see it across the river. And that's a couple 100,000 years old when the shoreline was 100 miles south of where it is today. This is part of the geology perspective. That shoreline has come in 100 miles since that rock was deposited. And that's the gross seam. You can argue climate change or whatever, but this is just an observation. It used to be 100 miles away, and today it's closer. And geologically, it's really fast. It's going tens of kilometers per million years. That's fast for geology. That's super rocket stuff. But here's the different way of looking at time. And this is a chance to put together. And then some of the grain size, they're doing some detrital zircon work. We expect to see some billion-year-old grains within the sands because we're draining the whole continent. So we've got these many orders of magnitude of time in here. So I'm jumping a little to the punchline at the end, but hurricanes are normal where we live, and we need to learn to coexist with them. That's where we live. We're on the coastal plain. So we can stop. I'm inside my time. Any questions? Kate's going to go on and discuss the human impact and the artistic interpretation.